Hello, this is Chuck Hogan from Your Best Life, and welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download both the Zingo TV app on the respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. The app is absolutely free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, and Fire TV sticks, Roku and Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 and forward. So we're so excited to have you all with us today. You know, I get to invite some amazing people onto this show. And one of the things that's so remarkable about this next guest is that not only have I known her for like over 2 decades, but I can tell you she is one of those folks that walks her talk. When we talk about people who are most effective in business, the people who actually help mentor us and help us learn how to grow to 6, 7, 8, 9-figure businesses, if you're like me, you could probably count on one hand who those people are. So I would love to introduce you to my sister from another mister, my beautiful dear friend, Lisa Lieberman Wang. Lisa, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling outstanding. I'm excited to be here. I'm even more excited about the conversation we'll have and how we'll serve others.
Well, I know we've kind of kept this elusive too, because I know you and I have had many conversations about a number of different things. But what I really was hoping to be able to tap in today, Lisa, was how do you find the harmony of being I'll say a mega entrepreneur, because I mean, you're well into the hundreds of millions of dollars in realized sales, and through the marketing that you've done and through the experiences that you've had, how do you find time to cultivate the harmony in your personal life, your health and vitality, and your business?
Well, it's a great question because there was a time I didn't know how. So there was a time I had no balance and I was all over the place and burned myself out and then figured out that that didn't work. And today I actually schedule my time. I literally segment what I'm doing, when I'm doing it. And one of my biggest goals as I got older, as I'm going to be approaching my 60th birthday coming up in March. So super excited about it. I'm announcing my age. I know women aren't supposed to. I'm okay with it. And I had a goal that I wanted to work 3 days a week and have a 7-figure business. And that's what I achieved. And a lot of people like, you can't do that. I said, yes, I can. It's the thing is we get done things that we need to get done in the time we give ourselves. So Absolutely. If we give ourselves a big stretch of time, then it's going to take us more time to do it. If we limit the time that we have to get something done, guess what? It gets done.
Absolutely. And first of all, you don't look a day over 38. So yeah. Congratulations. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it, honey, because it's amazing and it's working. Yardley's a very lucky man, and I know you're a very fortunate woman to have him in your life as well.
Yes.
But I love what you said, and that was scheduling it. Oftentimes, we'll schedule a doctor's appointment. You'll schedule like a checkup, but we won't schedule date night. We won't schedule the things that really create so much more value in our world. And I will admit, in fact, I'll raise both hands because I'm very guilty. I'm a lifelong learner, which eventually turns into a win. But the truth is, and you hit the nail on the head, and thank you for being so transparent and honest. Oftentimes people forget that we get to, it's not a have to, but the people who get to and decide to are the ones that are living at an elevated state, because they're no longer going, okay, it would be nice if I could find some time. Booby, you make the reservation. It's like, no, we're in this together. And so I know with Julie and I, that's something that's become really important to find that harmony. I had someone call me out on this the other day, and they're like, oh, Chuck, come on, dude, it's about balance. I said, no, it's not. I said, change is going to happen. And you know as well as I do, having been married for as long as we both have been married, that stuff's going to happen with or without us, whether we wanted to or not.
Absolutely.
And right. And so how do you find that even with the scheduling, how do you find that state of harmony where you can stay in that flex and flow? Because I'll speak for self. I screw up like a lot. I've got a PhD in like learnings. And so that's on my resume, by the way. So how do you find with Yardley, how does that function for you?
Well, I think the biggest thing is trading expectations for appreciation. And I believe that that's been a big part of our lives. So just to give a little backstory, I have been blessed to be with my husband 25 years. And we both were in marriages before. So we always say this is our last marriage, not our second, because it implies a third. And I had a psychic once told me I'd be married 3 times. So Yardley and I married each other again so I can get it over with. So I have my 3 down and I'm done. Because I was saying, what if she's right? So the piece that was really important is, things happen. And I always think of it as shift happens, SHIFT. Shift happens. And 2 years ago with COVID, I know the backstory, but Yardley got COVID, double pneumonia, a cytokine storm, a heart attack. He was in the hospital for 2 months. He was on 100% oxygen. He almost died 3 times. And life changed dramatically, very, very quickly, and learned very quickly. It doesn't matter how much money you have. When you're sick, there's nothing more important than your health. And there's nothing more important than your partner. And we broke every protocol there was. They wanted to intubate him. We knew that he wouldn't live through it. It wasn't happening. And today he is such a blessing. And anybody who knows us doesn't even know the extent that he's still in heart failure. He lost 30% of his lungs, 30% of his heart, got scarred with all this that happened. He has a low ejection fracture, which means that our normal hearts pump 50 to 70% of our blood. He's at 32. He was at 25. So anything under 40 is still heart failure. He's a friggin' miracle. And we know it, where a lot of people will find things to be upset about in life. And at our point and where we come from today, 2 years into this, is everything is just a gift. We're grateful for whatever we have. We're grateful for the time together. We're grateful for each other. We're grateful for the opportunities. I'm grateful to be here with you. And whatever that looks like, it just makes it easy to not just have a saying of trading expectations for appreciation, but living it. And,
Yes.
we're out here because of what happened. We sold our home because I got sick. The ambulance couldn't get up our driveway. And he's sick. And I'm thinking, this is not going to be a cool thing. It's not safe to be here. We had 5 acres and 5,000 square foot home and a beautiful oasis. Our house sells in one day. And Chuck, we've been homeless for 1.5 years now because our house was sold. And then we went to find another one and build another one. In 7 months, they still don't have a permit, and I still don't have a house.
You know what? It's rough having really good taste. And so people want what you have, and then it goes quick, and then you're trying to find something. You're like, can a sister just get a break for a second? Like, can we just like get a house, a place, a home? But here's the truth: you have each other.
Yeah,
Man, home is where the heart is.
it is.
So Julie and I talk about this all the time ago. If everything was perfect world, money was not an issue, there were zero limitations, where will we live? And we go, wherever we're together.
Absolutely.
She's my forever love. She's the person that I want to wake up to and the last person I want to see before I go to bed at night. And so for me, much like you, and bless you for saying what you're saying, it's so important because it's easy to get caught in other people's psychosis. And so what do I mean by that? Well, there's the expectations of business. There's the expectations of parenting. It's like trying to keep up with the Joneses. Oh, well, they have this. They went to Disney World. We should go to Disney World. They went on a cruise. We should. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I remember being a kid and going, summer vacation was a pop-up trailer on Pismo Beach. And my dad would give us a pitchfork and say, go find the clams because that's what we're having for dinner. It's like, come on,
Yeah.
wait a second. And if you think it was over there, it's like, I'm shucking clams for dinner. And it's like going, wow, child labor is real. And I don't mean to make it sound like I was impoverished or disenfranchised child. I wouldn't give those memories up for anything.
Yep.
I really wouldn't. And so to your point, getting to, and this level of appreciation is so paramount now. I see so many people living in entitlement and they just expect that this is the way life is supposed to be. And I go, who told you this?
Right.
Like, because you get to decide. Where I have always been intrigued by your relationship is that you're both like, it's almost like watching rock stars, form their own, family band. And it's like Wilson Phillips or something like that. Because you both have this insane level of talent. You're both very driven and very passionate. But I also see that there's this unremarkable level of respect that you have, not just for yourself and others, but for one another. And sometimes that can get lost in the competition of relationship, especially when you work together. So what do you say to people when they're trying to find that harmony in their business? Because it's like, and I'll speak for self, my identity shifts slightly when I'm in business mode by comparison to when I'm lovey-dovey hubby mode.
Yes. So I'm going to say that there was a time when Yardley didn't like his boss.
Okay.
And he quit.
I'm not doing this anymore.
Oh, and here, I'll tell you what gets us through everything. It's the laughing, because if we can't laugh at ourselves, we're totally in trouble. And what was happening is he was thought at one time he was competing with me. And I finally said, there is no competition. You know, there's stuff that I do really well, the stuff he does very well. And we had, it was an interesting metaphor that he had used at one time. We have built several businesses. We actually own 3 now, but there was a time where we owned 5. And one thing that he used to say is he'd say, honey, if you bought a car from the car dealership, when the car breaks down, you don't bring it back to the salesperson, you bring it to the mechanic, the service station. And I'd be like, yeah, it's true. But my thinking at the time was, you should be able to do it all. And he kept saying, I can't do it all. And I'm thinking, if I can do it all, why can't you do it all? So it was that compared to what? And then I think is when we stop pointing fingers, the expression is 3 always pointing back at you. And when I stopped looking at what he was or wasn't doing and just did what I did well and let him do what he did well, then it became a real beautiful, harmonious relationship versus you're not doing as much as me, or it's not valued the same way. I think after 25 years, I've learned that there are things that I am just much more adept to doing that are effortless to me and not to him. And there are things that are effortless to him and not to me. And just totally appreciating where he contributes. It may not have the same monetary level, but if it wasn't him doing it, I wouldn't be able to do what I do. And that was a huge thing. And you were there for part of that transition 12 years ago when
Sure.
we were sitting there with that power struggle going on saying, is this going to work? We got to get through this. And we found our way home.
Well, and I always had faith, and the reason for that is that it was quite obvious to anyone who ever met the two of you, the measure of love that you had. And there's this ideology, and they go, well, love cures all. And I said, well, it's a great start. And it is. It's a powerful aphrodisiac. It's a powerful state to be in. And on the other side, there's this thing which I'll call self-reliance and self-confidence. When we start to feel troubled or challenged in any relationship, it's because we're actually challenging ourselves in some ways, and we expect the other person to change or elevate or lift up to our standard. And I go, well, if no one's broken, then is change really the issue? And I said, it's not that change is the issue, it's perspective. Because the love is there. And to your point, there's an expectation, and when we shift it to appreciation, we get to see the gifts. We get to see all of the options and opportunity and the grace. And having this scare from COVID, I felt for you, my sister, because it's one of those scenarios I can't even imagine being in that state or that space, even momentarily, where you're concerned. I was the one that gave my wife that scare in 2009 when I was diagnosed with cancer. And it's not something I talk about a lot, but it's one of those scenarios. I go, well, yeah, why don't you, dude? You know, it could make a story. And I said, because it was a moment.
Right.
And I'm a cancer conqueror, not a cancer survivor. So I'm not surviving cancer. I've moved past it. And I don't go, oh boy, I had that cold that one time and woo, it knocked me. I was like, no, it's a moment. This was a long moment. This was one of those, I don't call it just a blip. We'll put it that way. What you two have gone through, and to see how you come out the other side. And it's with love and adoration and commitment and connection. And where some people might have fostered and gone into scarcity and hiding, you went into dreaming. Like, okay, where do we go from here? How do we even have more adventures? I mean, my God, you two are like two pickleball like professionals. It's like the craziest freaking thing I've ever seen. I'm like, going, he's out there playing pickleball again. And I'm like, good. Watch yourself, buddy. I mean, it's like, because I know how freaking competitive he is too.
Yeah.
But I'm glad it's pickleball and not like, full tennis court. It's like,
Right, you can fit 2 pickleball courts and 1 tennis court, so it's half the size, easier to do. What happened is his cardiologist said to him, "You have to exercise every day." So I got more exercise than him because I was carrying 140 pounds, pulling him to walk with me, and it's like, "This is not cool." So one of my girlfriends says to me, "Ed and I have been playing pickleball, it's amazing, you guys are gonna love it." So I said to Yardley, I call him Handsome, I go, "Handsome, we're going to Florida, we're gonna buy a house, we're gonna build a house, we're gonna make sure it's pickleball, we're gonna play pickleball, we're gonna be champions, we're gonna compete, we're gonna do all this." And neither one of us had ever stepped on a court. We didn't even know how to play. We never touched it. So we see some people playing, we're watching, we're asking questions. The guy goes, "Oh, just check out YouTube." So Yardley gets obsessed, 100 hours of YouTube videos watching pickleball. I didn't think anything else existed on a TV or a device because that's all he let me watch. We end up going and buying pickleball shoes, join the Naples Pickleball Club, and we don't even know how to even play. We never stepped on a court, and we are now members of everything. And before you know it, fast forward, he just picked it up. He had played ping pong in the past. He picked it up like he was a pro. He is now a trainer. He's an instructor for pickleball. He is licensed instructor. Go to Pickleball with Yardley. I built a website for him. We have a web development company for 24 years. And he is the funniest thing. He can run around a court, but he can't friggin' walk. But if like walk, 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 it's like pulling a snail. But to get on the court, he is just everywhere.
And it's
I
all of
found a way to get him to exercise, and that's what I needed to do.
and it's beautiful, and it's that drive. And
He loves it.
he's a competitor. There's no competition in walking.
I
There's
know.
competition in,
Well,
you
there
know,
could be. He can't keep up with me, but he doesn't make it a competition. He just makes it me pulling weights.
no one can keep up with you. Okay, so let's be very clear about what we're talking about here. I don't want to make it sound like Yardley's at a deficit. No one can keep up with you. So, and that's a testament to you.
Yeah.
You have unbridled level of energy and enthusiasm that's intoxicating to people. I want to ask you for your advice on something, and that is for the person who's watching us tonight and reviewing what we're discussing. What would you say to someone when they're like, going, "But Lisa, you've been there, you've made it, hun. You've built this dream, you've had the success." What would you say to someone who's looking for some inspiration or some aspiration as to where do they start to find that meaning within themselves, to lift themselves, to give themselves the faith and the opportunity? In fact, I'm gonna phrase it a slightly different way, so that they can build a belief where they can achieve.
Well, I actually believe that if you see somebody that you admire and respect and you see something in them, you're seeing yourself.
Yes.
Because I believe that the appreciation comes because there's a piece of you that sees that you can have that too. And if you're looking at it with that perspective, I've had a lot of amazing mentors. And I never looked at them as, "Oh, they have it, I can't." I always looked at it and saying, "That's really cool that they have it, and that's wonderful." And I've been one that models success. I find out what they're doing and I want to do it just like they did. And I believe when you see that in others, there's just a piece of you you're missing that maybe you don't see it in yourself. You're capable of it. And I
Yes.
believe every one of us are capable of greatness. And if we allow it and we move away all the question marks of, my good enough, shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and what ifs and everything else, and just take imperfect action. I remember I had eliminated imperfection a long time ago. So I used to be a perfectionist, and now I say, I strive for imperfection. And my background was corporate America. I worked for IBM and MCI, and I was always measured on sales. So my ERV, estimated revenue, back 40 years ago was doing $2 million a year. Today, that may be equivalent to 6 or 8. And I always did 400% a goal. So when you look at the numbers and you look at where things are, I was judged on performance. So I just knew you had to perform, you do it, and I did it very easily and consistently. Well, I think the same thing is if I didn't do as well as I thought I did, I used to beat myself up. And I
Yes.
found I spent more years in my early years beating myself up for never being good enough, even though I was an overachiever and I was unbelievably successful. I never saw that benchmark. I think in my later years, I was introduced to Tony Robbins because I ended up with an eating disorder. And I
Mhm.
ended up bulimic, compulsive overeater, binge eater, and was hospitalized 6 times over 13 years. I had a sudden heart attack at 18. I almost died. And I remember I'm being rolled into the emergency room, and my dad said something that I never heard him say before. He may have said it, but I never heard him say it. And he said, "I love you." And
Mm.
when I heard that, I actually had something happen in my head that said, "Oh, when you're sick, they're nice to you." Because
Uh,
my dad's nickname for me growing up wasn't very favorable, and he used to call me AH, which stood for asshole, which was not the best thing. I thought princess would have been better. But dad, he loved me. He just didn't know how to show it. Grew up with my grandparents who came from Russia in the time of the war. Things were harder. He didn't have that TLC. He didn't have what my mom's side had. So he
right.
just did his best. And today I get it, but as a kid, you don't.
No.
So I learned to stay sick for years until a friend of mine, a chiropractor, introduced me to Tony Robbins. And he goes, he's in town, he's doing a fire walk. And I thought, fire walk, stop bulimia, because that's all I figured. I was trying to stop being bulimic. And I meet Tony Robbins. I go through all his programs, become a platinum partner, become a trainer, do all this stuff. And over the years, I realized that the first half of my life, I love your best life, that you have, but the first half of my life wasn't my best life, but it prepared me for my best life. And
Absolutely.
it gave me a different appreciation for everything. And now I could be successful without beating myself up. I don't have to compare myself to others. And I can also understand and appreciate where other people are so hard on themselves that even in their greatness, they may miss it.
Sure. Sure. It was interesting. I was having a conversation earlier in the week. We just had an amazing financial event up in Vail, and it was remarkable just to have the integration, the connection with people. And someone was saying, "I'm a failure," and not me. They were saying this of themselves, and I was like, "Going, okay, why do you presuppose that that's who you are?" And they said, "Well, I've had a track record where I've made a lot of mistakes," and I said, "Yes, but you're here now." And the pain that we have is in the past. It only becomes a legacy if we don't learn from it, because then it's a plague. It's something that continues to torment us. It's kind of like
Mhm.
having that splinter that we never removed.
Sure.
And what's beautiful about your history and your rich history, and also the diversity that you have, is that it gives context for people that there's hope and opportunity when
Yes.
you believe that you can achieve. It's something that's it seems so cliche and so fundamental, but it really is true. I've known too many people that try to fake it till they make it. And that's a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because when you tell yourself, I'm faking it, I'm faking it, I'm faking it, but I'm gonna make it, you're like, going, are you really? Because if I'm telling myself I'm faking it, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in self. But when I go, I believe that I'm gifted, I believe that I have heart, I believe I have drive, it starts to feed a different part of you. And so we have this saying in the world of YBL that progress equals happiness.
Mhm.
And I believe that any progress, though, a
Yep.
millimeter or a mile, it,
Mhm.
it, it elevates you. It gives you, oh, it's like, man, I'm moving forward. I'm making stuff happen. It was intentional. It wasn't a hopium. I hoped it would happen and it happened. I go, well, the power of manifestation is cool, but hoping isn't really manifesting, because there's
Right.
no belief in that. There's a whole lot of, oh, I might get lucky. But on the other side, I was like, okay, what if possibilities or progress was fed by possibilities? And anytime something seems possible, like, ooh, I could do that. I watched Lisa, and I saw how she cultivated a business, saw how she did her marketing and her branding and her messaging. And I was like, well, and she's my sister. I know that if I ask her, she's going to assist me,
Yep.
and I'm going to create value and she's going to create value. We elevate each other. I go, ooh, that's a level 3 relationship. I love that.
Yes.
Not like, oh, I'm going to ask Lisa. I'm going to have her show me everything. I'm not going to give her crap to do it. It's like, wait, no. There needs to be some measure of matching. And because in matching, it's about we. Let's be very clear. There's givers and takers. I've met a lot of takers who are more than willing to take. I've met a lot of givers who will give incessantly and not fill back up and then get burnt out. The people I see thrive are the matchers. It's because they understand each other's needs, desires, and values. And when we give value alignment, all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's it's like a thunderhead cloud. You just see this thing, you're going, wow, where did that come from? You're like going, there's energy in this space. There's magic in this space.
Yes.
And I want to thank you, Lisa, because when you said this, I can imagine for someone at home going, yeah, but where do I start? Come on, Lisa, Chuck, this is silly. I mean, you guys are talking, you have this success. Look at, you're talking on a show. And I go, yeah. And we're talking. And this is communication. And this is how the world gets better. Nothing gets, caring is sharing. Hey, y'all, that's, we're here for this. So Lisa, for the folk that's going, I'm home, I'm working 2 jobs, I'm putting in 14 hours a day. Where do I start? What advice would you give to someone who's going, I'm passionate about stuff, but I'm so dead dog tired, I don't know how to get there?
Well, I think the question is, are we talking about what I love, and that's building business? Or are we talking about building a hobby? Or are we talking about a passion or something that you want to do, like pickleball? If you're talking about where do I start, I want to build a business. One of the things I think was fascinating, and I realized I did it years ago, is we have our own limitations, whether we know it or not. We create glass ceilings for ourselves.
Yes.
And I remember when I was a kid, my mom used to tell me, and my dad, they would tell me about success, and success equated to someone making 6 figures. So I was 23 years old when I started making 6 figures. My first 6-figure year was $150,000. And at 23, and when my parents found out, they're like, "Oh, you did it." I'm like, "Oh, I did it." And then for years, I made about 150,000 a year. And nobody ever told me I should make 7 figures. And I was like, why didn't they tell me 7 figures? Because then I got to $250,000, and I was like, I stayed there for years. And then I was like, why aren't I making $500,000? I could make $500,000. I'm like, okay. And I started making $500,000. I'm like, what would it be like to make $750,000? And then it was like, I turned around one day, I said, I want to make $1 million a year. And the thing that was so ironic about it, I'm not saying it to impress upon anybody, and the thing we say is just in order to impress you, is more like, I didn't realize I was my own limitation.
Yes.
And I remember somebody saying to me something about making 5 million a year. And I said, I don't need to make 5 million a year. Then I'm like, who said that? Like, why did I say that? And why did I put a limit? Because all of a sudden in my head, it felt like I couldn't do that working 3 days a week, because that was the rule.
Right.
And then I thought about it. I said, no, let me figure this out. I can figure everything out. How do I leverage myself? Because although I work 3 days a week, I have 10 employees. They work 5 days a week. So I don't have to be the one doing it to do it. And I think that that's the first limitation we have. Is, you made a comment before, well, I'm working, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I have all these other responsibilities. Yes, and what is it? Not yes, but yes, and what is it you really want? What is it you're looking to achieve? And how can you achieve that? It's not how can I not, it's what is it I want and how can I achieve it? And the bigger the why, the harder you try. Get clarity.
Yes.
Get clarity on what you want. Yeah.
Oh, and that's so important too. We've often had discussions about this, and that is, there are a lot of people chasing wants. It's kind of like the television ads. They're not selling you what you need. They're selling you what they think you want. And so they're putting out these offers, these irresistible offers. I go, okay, what do you need? Well, I know you need air. I know that for a fact, because you can only last minutes without it. I know you need water because you can only go days without it. I know you need food because you can only go weeks without it. And they go, well, okay, what are the last 2? And I said, well, you need some shelter, because that would be nice when it's really cold or really hot. I said, and then you need love and connection. That's part of the human condition, is that when we don't feel connected to others or self, and they go, oh, but that's not just love of others. I said, it's love to self as well. Love and connection means that you actually honor and appreciate the human being that you get to stare at in the mirror, even if it's just for a moment. And so they go, okay, but this one thing. I go, well, I'll give you an example. You need transportation, right?
Yeah.
And some people go, yeah, but what would that look like? And I go, well, for some people, it's an Uber. For some people, it's taxi cabs. For some people, it's a car service. For some people, it's a horse-drawn carriage. For some people, it's a freaking electric skateboard that they have, a Bird app or a Lime app for. I said, it can be any way that gets you to your outcome. But I want a Ferrari, Chuck. I go, I know. You need it. And it's like, well, I really want it. You don't understand. I really want it. And I was like, then that's great. If you have the means and it's going to allow you to feel the way you need to feel most often, I said, but will you still feel that way when you get a $5,000 maintenance bill to change the oil? Will you still feel that way when it has 5,000, 10,000 miles on it, is depreciated, 75 grand? Will you still, they're like, oh, dude, Debbie Downer, what are you doing? Like, what am I dreaming? I'm not trying to kill your dream. What I'm trying to help you understand is when you meet your needs, you'll start to see a shift in your wants because now you're getting fulfilled. When your needs are at the highest, I'm talking level 9, level 10, it's like love, light, and happiness, connection, health, prosperity, vitality. I go, all of a sudden your wants, I go, dude, you know what? What I really want is a new Peloton. What I really want is a new bike or rollerblade. I'm gonna rollerblade to the freaking office. I live 2 miles away down, Ocean Boulevard, whatever the case might be. And you're like going, hey, that's gonna make my day. Oh, but Mr. Ferrari, what happened to the ride, And they go, I don't need the status. Oh, so the feeling you were really going for is to be feeling worthy and connected. And it had nothing to do with the name brand of the vehicle. Ah, interesting.
For sure.
So what is it really? And I said, it's exactly what you talked about, getting clarity.
Yes.
Understanding that what really fills us up and fulfills us isn't, and I'm not chapping Louis Vuitton. I'm just saying, do you really need another Louis Vuitton bag? And you might. I ladies, I apologize if I've offended anyone. And I'm just gonna say, and I could use Jimmy. I don't want to dig myself in a hole, but I could say it's Jimmy Choo's or whatever the case might be. But the point of being is that if you had a wonderful pair of shoes, I guarantee you're not running on the treadmills in Jimmy Choo's. That might be a stretch. I might be guessing, but my hallucination would be is that the environment is going to dictate what the need is as well.
It does. Absolutely. And if you're going to talk, you're talking about all that, and it really becomes a question of what is it you want? But the other piece is if you have a desire and a wish to even, let's go into starting a business, and the business is to serve others. One of the things is my mission is to touch more lives than Oprah by helping people who help others. And I use it as a litmus test for any business we start, because there was a time we had 5 businesses and I didn't feel that they were serving us. They weren't in alignment with where I wanted to go, and they were taking too much of my time. And today I look at what we do and I measure everything by how it serves us and how it serves others. I think if there's something that you love to do and it's going to fulfill you, you can be successful in any business. And I've been helping people build businesses from 6, 7, 8, 9 figures for decades now. My background's marketing, advertising, and understanding that there's always a product and service for someone. And it's never too late to start a business. I look at people like, Louise Hayes, who started her business in her 60s. I look at people like Ruth, remember Dr. Ruth was in her 60s. There's, I just forgot the name of the gentleman, Morgan Freeman started acting in his 60s. Like all these people that were later in life years that started doing things, and then people will turn around and limit themselves on, is it too late for me to do what I want to do? Or how do I do what I want to do? I'm going to let you know, there's a rule book for everything. And I just came out with a new book, and the book was geared towards helping people who are in the coaching and consulting business, as you know, Chuck, but it's really for anyone who wants to start business. And I just decided to the riches and the niches and the niche it into coaching, and it's how to build a 7-figure coaching business. So if you go right now, I just released it a week ago, I am giving it away for free. And it's 216 pages of unbelievable content of exactly what you need to do to build a 7-figure business. Whether it's coaching, consulting, entrepreneurial, a business, it's about marketing and branding yourself and getting your message out there and the clarity of how you do it, and understanding who your ideal avatar is and how to market and where to market, and not try to be everything to everyone. And when you get clarity on that, you actually find that you as an entrepreneur, a lot of people are majoring in the minors instead of minoring and minoring in the majors, and they're trying to do everything on their own. There's things that only you can do. You need to learn what that is, and then anything else you have to learn how to automate, delegate, and eliminate, so that you're not trying to recreate the wheel, but you find people that do what they do well and you do what you do well. I think that trying to be everything to everyone is just unfathomable. It's hard to do. You'll never succeed. And I believe that if there's something that you really do well, figure it out how to do that and find other people who do what they do well and create a team. Just like I shared with Yardley and I, he's the yin to the yang for me, without a doubt, where we complement each other. I'm the person that when ChatGPT and other things came out, I went from 8 in the morning till 2 in the morning for about 3 weeks before I got to the point where I really needed sleep. And I was like, I need to stop because I'm a little obsessed. And he couldn't. And he's like, why don't you just go to sleep? And he's worried about watching Wolverine. I don't know. Not what I'm worried about, not in the same realm. My point is, he wasn't where I was, but he didn't need to be, but he respected where I needed to be. Find out what your passion is and just do it. I really believe we have one. I made a comment to someone, you only live once. And she said, no, it was my cousin who's 81 years old, actually yesterday. And she says, that's not true, Lisa. You don't only live once. You only die once. You live every day.
That's it.
And I was like, she's right. So
you choose to. If you choose to.
You
Yes.
choose to. So think about what it is you want to do in this life. In this life, what is it you want to do? And what's that going to look like? And what's that going to feel like? And who's going to be in it? And I got to tell you, Chuck, we've lived probably more in the last 2 years of our turmoil than we've lived in the last 20 something years together, because of the fact that we figured out what was really important. And what was more important than anything else was us, our relationship,
Yes.
our family and our friends, and all the things out there after that just no longer important. And we had everything. We have the big house, this and we're building another house, and it's honestly, we downsized, but I think it's still too big, and he doesn't care. He wants a big house again, but it is what it is.
He's a man, and we have a tendency. I'll speak for our
brother from the other mother here. You're supporting him.
Well, part of it is that it comes down to feeling like you're a good provider. You want to know that you have the capacity that if families visiting or friends are visiting, that they get to be ingratiated into your home. Julie and I've had the same discussion. We have a 5-bedroom home, 4 baths, and it's like, okay, and do we downsize? And it's like, well, the kids could visit, and I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, there's a lot of vacuuming to do. There's a lot of things and stuff that go on in this house. Even if there are robots vacuuming, I don't care. There's still a lot going on. But you brought up something, and it really is beautiful, Lisa, and that is, and congratulations on your book, by the way. It's brilliant. The information is remarkable. I would say, if you're looking for inspiration and an aspiration, get the book. Get the book. What you're gonna find is it gives you some milestones that you can start to put into, and even if it asks better questions, that you start to emote within your own mindset. Because really the shift is, your mindset comes from your heart set. Let's be very clear. You can put your mind to anything. If you don't have the drive to get it done, literally, it will fall out from between your ears and onto your lap, and you'll be like, oh, that was a mess, sorry. And you'll either sweep it up, vacuum it up, or it'll go away and evaporate. When your heart is into it, there's a drive and a passion and an interest level that, when coupled with your mind, now there's interest. Now there's this fire that's burning from inside. And I go, ooh, I had another idea. Ooh, but it's coming from a great place, because it's the creative process. Allow yourself to live in that space. Allow yourself to live in the what if, the what if zone. Well, what if I decided to go ahead and start a business? What might that look like? What if I actually got eager and hungry and enthused? It's like, there's a little different part of you that starts to come alive when you start to ask, what if? And then the next question I ask you is, what if it was already done? What would that look like? See someone who's already doing it. You can find information today. We have such a plethora of resources. You can Google anything and find it.
Yep.
Anything, y'all. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to find things and stuff. And now with AI coming into play,
Yes.
it's getting even more crazy
Yeah.
because you can have avatars. If you're not familiar with an avatar, imagine your preferred client or your preferred self, if you want to call it that, the optimized you. Well, guess what? You get to identify your client. You get to identify your skill sets and talents. No different than what Lisa was just sharing. It's so important that you understand what you're great at, but be honest with yourself. Don't go, you're a great singer, but when you start singing, everyone leaves the room. Reality might be different than the perception. Videotape yourself and listen to your voice. Because I know some people who think they're amazing, and it's like, wow, dogs are howling. I love you. This is not your gift. You're great at playing the guitar, but not singing with the playing of the guitar. Either play the guitar louder or sing softer. Not a criticism, an observation. Why? Because when you take someone who can sing and then you're playing, now magic happens, and vice versa. It's about finding the harmony. No different than in music. So, wow, Lisa, this is so cool. I'd love for you to share in regards to self-assurity and self-image. Because going through what you went through, and you grow through, you get to go through what you grow through. And so as our friend Tony Rodriguez would say, and it's an interesting concept because when you're going through it, sometimes we don't realize that we're getting the lessons. What would you say has been some of the biggest shifts for you and how you found a way to find more of you? There's a lot of people who are living and they're trying to find it from outside of themselves. I keep, when we talk about inspiration and aspiration, those are great examples, but they don't necessarily give you the fuel for self. What would you say to someone who's not feeling very empowered right now?
Well, if somebody is living in a suffering state, it's because they want to connect with themselves.
Mm,
And if they are having a hard time connecting with something, they'll connect with anything. And the challenge is if it became a habit and a muscle you exercise, which is the muscle I exercised for 13 years in dis-ease, disease with myself, having an eating disorder, is what I wanted more than anything else in the world was loving connection. And I settled for connection, but even if it was to myself.
mm,
And then I had what's called secondary gain. And secondary gain is what I got from my family, where it was love of concern and pity and scarcity and worry. But it wasn't something that was going to actually, stop or change things for me. It just became, at least people care, right? So I think when we end suffering is when we stop making it about ourselves. We take the focus off ourselves and we make it about others. I think that's the big thing to change it. The other thing is that, when you already know that you're enough, and you are enough just the way you are, perfectly imperfect, and you stop looking for the attention by what's wrong, but you look for what's right, everything
yes.
in your world can change. And I think that that's the biggest piece that I'd want to give people is to say, change your question, change your life. I went from what's wrong with me to what's good about this. And just
Yep.
that little shift just changed everything in my world.
It really does, because where focus goes, energy flows, and people have a tendency to forget that the ordinary things done consistently produce extraordinary results. The simple shift of appreciation of self, if it's even something like using the Hawaiian prayer, the Ho'oponopono, or if it's doing some biofeedback, or if it's doing, self-imaging, where we start to look at self and go, wow, I'm making progress. The sit-ups are working, the push-ups are working, the walking is working, the eating healthier is working, the health and vitality, I have more energy, I feel more connected to self. Then what if, to your point, there could just be this level of appreciation? They go, well, what's there to appreciate? It's like, look at me, losing my hair, I have 10 extra pounds, and I go, okay. Well, I know a lot of women that think a bald guy is sexy. I know a lot of people that think that that believe that they like a dad bod rather than a bodybuilder bod. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, really.
Chuck, for the answer I can give as an easy answer, go to ebook.findtofab.com. My first book that sold like #1 bestseller, put me on ABC, NBC, CBS, and everything else is Find to Fab. And it's going from effed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional to fabulous, awesome, beautiful. Get the book. It's really about how to overcome self-sabotage to live an authentic life, happy, healthy, and free.
See, there's always a way. I love what Preston, my buddy Preston, has to say. He's a co-founder of YBL and a business partner, and he says 99% of all problems have already had an amazing solution created. You just need to find the one that fits you.
Yep.
And so just know that other people have walked in your shoes,
Yes.
that as unique as you think you are, and you're brilliant, and you're beautiful, and you're bright, and you're bold and dynamic, there are other people who've experienced the same things that you've experienced, because there's only so many behavioral patterns that we as humans go through. Yes, they're layered. Yes, no one has had your unique journey. Yes, no one has had your, remarkable experiences. And I can tell you that the emotionals are threaded and very similar. And I know we only have like a couple minutes left, but Lisa, what would you like people to walk away with tonight? What would, again, check this woman out, Google her. She has written multiple bestsellers. She is remarkable on so many different levels. But I'll phrase it this way. Thank you. Thank you for being such a great bastion of vulnerability and hope, and an example, a living example for other people, that you're not the culmination of what your experiences have been. You're actually who you believe you are in this moment and how you show up. And that's the legacy that we get to leave for people.
Yes. And as a closing thought is just to remember to fly, and fly stands for first love yourself. You start there, everything else is easy.
Oh, you're amazing. You're amazing. Well, I just want to remind everyone that this is Lisa Lieberman Wang. You've been with us on Your Best Life. And this show can be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check us out for all the news and all the programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.